And we are back with our next video that we are going to talk about the 5 essential questions that you want to ask before you hire your next photographer. Clearly, every photographer is different, so it is necessary to do the work. Clear communication of your expectations, your photography needs, and understanding that photographer's process will reduce the chance of any disappointments. Let's get into it. Question number 1, what is your photography style? Now, we're not going to go into editorial versus traditional versus dynamic. No, we're going to keep this one simple. Photography is an art, and every single artist has their own voice and their own way of seeing the world and their own way of crafting a story. When you select a photographer, I would highly suggest that you would have viewed previous work beforehand. Okay? If there is a photographer or an image that has just struck your heart, that you are really attached to, I'm going to also suggest you do everything you can to find that photographer, and here is why. If you attempt to find another artist to match or copy what another person has done, you will not be 100% satisfied. If you are okay with the plan B, and you and this photographer have discussed what they can and can't do, and you move forward, then you're going to have a higher chance of setting the stage for a successful and satisfying collaboration. It's kind of like, I really wanted to get this Prada bag, but I opted to go with Max Mara. The bag is kind of cute, it still works, but somewhere deep inside you're like, I really wanted that Prada bag. Sometimes you just have to go for what you actually want versus going for plan B. But talk to that photographer about their style. Question number 2, what's included in the package? All right, so let's talk about consumers in general. A lot of us, we see words on a piece of paper, and then we read like 75% of those words, and then we fill in the other 25% of those words with what we thought we read. That doesn't work well when it comes to any kind of package and any kind of contract. You need to be clear on what you're paying for and what you're receiving and when you're going to receive it. Clarity helps avoid surprises, hidden costs, and disappointment. Clarity. When you are looking at these packages, when you're reviewing the contract, which we'll talk about again, you need to understand and know when the photographer will arrive. When will the photographer leave? How many images are you receiving? Do I get a complimentary digital copy? Do I have to pay for that digital copy? Do I receive a certain number of photos? How will they be delivered? Is it online? Is it through a USB? For the digital copies, do I have permission to print them? Are there any restrictions on how I may use them? Clarity. And I want to go back to that one about the copyright really quick, because I want to make sure we're clear here. The photographer retains copyrights, right? Like, this is their work. They are giving you, if they give it to you, they give you permission to print it and how to use it, how to share it for personal or commercial purposes. That is so that there are no legal issues, which is why we go back to make sure you are clear in what you are receiving and how it may be used. Clarity helps avoid disappointment, surprises, and any legal issues. Question number 3, can I see your portfolio? Okay. I'm not going to tell you how many times I've had customers contact me and have never looked at one picture I created. You'd be surprised. we need to look at the work before we hire someone, right? A client's needs vary, right? And so for photographers, as we mentioned before in our misconceptions, we don't photograph everything. Not that we can't, but we have areas of the business that we like to specialize in. A pet photographer loves photographing pets. A person who does newborns loves working with new, fresh-born babies. The person who does weddings loves weddings. Now, you may have someone like myself, a family photographer, where we capture birthdays, headshots, senior sessions. We may capture the holiday family portrait. So we have a variety in our portfolio. You may even see a little difference in lighting, but there tends to be a consistency in the work that is created. You as a client will have specific preferences, specific needs. You want to look at the person's portfolio. You want to look, if you're doing, say, event photography, ask for a complete event. Not 5 from this one, 6 from that one, 8 from this one. Look at the entire event to see how it will be captured. When we, again, do our due diligence, it reduces the opportunity for disappointment. Question number 4. What's your experience with similar projects? So this piggybacks on the previous question about viewing the portfolio. It's perfectly fine to choose a photographer that has a little bit of everything. It is. However, as we mentioned before, when you work with a specialist in a certain genre, there is a higher chance of being satisfied with the final product. Love pet photography. Not exactly sure I would hire the pet photographer for my 4-day wedding event. Just don't think that's the way I want to go. You can do whatever you like. But this is when we go back to, as photographers, we don't photograph every single thing. We have the skill set to photograph everything. What we specialize in is a particular genre that allows us to deliver a consistent product that is groundbreaking. If you're looking for someone to focus on event photography, be it a birthday, a party, a second anniversary get together, whatever it is, you want someone who has done that kind of thing before. Perhaps you want someone who's worked out in the desert. Perhaps you want someone who has photographed toddlers. Look for photographers that have experience with similar projects. If you are a ballerina, maybe you want someone who has photographed a plethora of dancers. Take the time to ask the questions, and this is the second opportunity to view the photographer's body of work. Question number 5, and it is the biggest one in my opinion. What's the booking process and timeline? You need to understand the process and the timeline if you want to make sure that your plan and vision for this photography project goes smoothly. Clear communication and understanding of your photographer's process reduces hours of stress, both for you and your photographer. We all have our own system. We all have our own way of how our business operates. You want to make sure you fully understand what that means. And this is where, if you haven't read the contract completely, you want to go back and read the contract completely. Some photographers take a deposit that goes towards your final payment, right? Some photographers take a retainer, which is typically non-refundable. So even if you cancel the portrait session, the wedding, the engagement session, they get to keep a portion. Sometimes that's the entire retainer, depending on what it is. But they get to keep that money because you took time off of their schedule. And no one else can now book it. Gotta read the contract. They will tell you the timeline for pre-session consultation, meeting at the portrait session, going through the editing process, going through the ordering process, going through the delivery process. Maybe they also offer installation and delivery. It is all written in there. And if it's not, you gotta ask the questions. Ask as many questions as possible. The idea of, well, I'm not gonna bring it up because you will find yourself either being disappointed or in some legal trouble. Because again, let's say, for example, you do a basic family portrait and it's just you. And you now decide, I love this photo so much. I'm going to put this photo on my book cover or a billboard. And your photographer's driving down the highway, sees their work on a billboard that you had no permission to use. You may find yourself in court. And so let's just give a fun number. For the $500 you spent on the photo album and they gave you this complimentary image, you may now be out of pocket thousands because you didn't do your due diligence in understanding how you were allowed to use that image. Take the time, read the contract, avoid those situations. Ask as many questions as possible. Thank you again for watching this video series that focuses on demystifying investing in photography, because it doesn't have to be hard. We pray that these 5 questions will help you in the near future when you go to hire your next photographer. And if by chance you have more questions, feel free to send an email to info@gphotographybyg.com, or you can leave a comment in the space below.